Today is the 21st of August, 2018. We are at the New York State Military Museum in Saratoga Springs. My name is Wayne Clarke. Sir, for the record, would you please state your full name and date and place of birth, please?
Henry Hochlowski, born on September 3rd, 1925. I presently reside at 30 Downey Avenue, Wappingers Falls, New York.
Okay, and whereabouts were you born?
I was born in Poughkeepsie, New York,
okay.
42 Laurel Street.
Okay, did you attend school in Poughkeepsie?
I attended St. Joseph's Catholic School in grade school, and then Poughkeepsie High School for 3+ years, and then I went into service.
Now you mentioned you were drafted while you were in high school?
While I was in high school, that's correct.
Okay. And I'm assuming that they drafted you into the Army?
Yeah, they drafted me, and I went to Camp Upton, which was on Long Island.
And from Upton, where did they send you for basic training?
Sent me down with the 65th Division down in Camp Shelby in Hattiesburg, Mississippi.
Mm-hmm. Now, was that basically your first time away from home?
Pretty much, other than real short trips around the Poughkeepsie area.
All right. And how long was your basic training?
I think it was, if I remember correctly, 13 weeks, 13 to 16 weeks.
And you had advanced infantry training there also?
That's correct.
Mm-hmm. Now, was there anybody there from Poughkeepsie that you knew at the time?
No, there was nobody there.
No? Okay.
Even anywhere. Most of the people there were from the South.
Okay. Now, once you graduated from basic training, where did you go next?
After basic training, I joined 26th Division. They were at Fort Jackson, South Carolina at the time. And then we were preparing to go overseas.
How long were you there before you went overseas?
Oh, trying to remember the exact date we went overseas. We went overseas trying to think the exact date.
Well, that's all right if you can't remember.
I don't remember the exact date.
Okay, that's all right. Did you go over with the whole division?
Yes, the whole division. We went over on the Argentina. It was a passenger ship. The Argentina pretty much held our regiment, which was 104th, and some additional troops.
Did you convoy over, or just?
Yes, we were in the middle of a convoy. In fact, the Argentina was the flagship of the convoy.
And did you run into any action, subs or anything like that?
I don't know. I know they had fired a 5-inch gun that was on the ship and other nearby. I don't know if that was just to exercise and make sure that they were ready to fire or not. But I never did find out whether it was any sort of a submarine around or anything. It was quite stormy. In fact, what they used to do is give you a card that you had to be in line for your breakfast, lunch, and dinner at a certain time. And if you didn't follow those orders, you had to go way to the back of the line when you got there. So we were only 2 days at sea where they told us to disregard all card because there was so many people seasick.
Oh, I was going to ask you that if you got seasick.
We used to watch from the Argentina back at little grace lines that would actually disappear and reappear. Disappear and reappear. And the sergeant there says, "Hank, you better stop looking at that or you will get sick." So just continue watching those little Graceliners go up and down. Well, I was lucky I didn't get sick, but the cabin, oh man, I spent all the time mostly up on deck. I couldn't stand it. The guys were throwing up all over the place. It was a mess down.
How long was the trip?
11 days.
Uh-huh. And whereabouts did you land?
We landed outside of Utah Beach. This was, of course, after D-Day.
Uh-huh.
Utah being one of the beaches they landed at on D-Day. And we disembarked on a landing ship, you know, took the rope ladders down the side of the ship.
Okay.
And went in, and there was no fighting at the Utah Beach around, but there was several roped off areas where there were still some minefields that weren't cleared. And unfortunately, a couple of people didn't heed that warning, went in there. They not only got killed, but some others going to their assistance got killed.
Oh, wow.
Stupidity, really.
Yeah.
It was a big sign there. So not, minefield not cleared. You know.
So
we lost people before we were really in combat.
So you moved inland from there?
Very short distance. Marigleese, you heard that?
Sure.
In a lot of pictures. We were just outside of there.
All right.
We bivouacked there for a while, and we were in reserve at the Brest Peninsula for a while. They were fighting in the Brest Peninsula. We didn't get engaged immediately. Several days later, we started getting engaged, and they trucked us some distance, but transportation was pretty difficult. Getting ammunition up to the troops that were further ahead and the like, and we walked a good long distance. And then we rode to a point, I don't know what town it was or what, but it was at a point where you could hear the gunfire and the thing, and then we got out of the trucks and started walking towards that area.
Now you mentioned they made you a BAR man. Was that right from the get-go, or was that after a while?
Well, you went through all the firing. You fired the M1, you fired the carbine, you fired the pistol, and I guess I scored well with the BAR, and so they slung it on my shoulder, and I was big enough to carry it, I guess. And some combination. The funny part about it was the pistol, though. I went and got a pistol, and the pistol was over 60 feet. The guy says, "You mean that's the target?" He says, "Well, want me to give you a little instructions?" I said, "No, these that damn thing's right there." So I took the pistol, and bang, 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 and go look at the target. Not a single one hit. Then the sergeant says, "Now you want to learn?" I says, "Yeah, I guess I better."
Now,
were you smart ass?
Were you issued a pistol along with the BAR, or just the BAR?
No, a knife.
Oh, a knife.
A knife.
Okay.
No pistol.
Was it a bayonet or some kind of fighting knife?
No, it was a knife. Had looked like a leather handle, and maybe it was 8 to 10 inches long.
All right.
And you had a scabbard.
Now, when was the first time you personally were under fire?
Let's see, probably, I can't remember the exact date. It was actually the first night that we stayed, we got fired upon. It's artillery shells.
Okay.
First night we replaced part of the 104th Armored Division. Even the Armored Division had really some infantry type task people, and we went right into their foxhole. And evidently the Germans had heard the activity. It was night, but they heard the activity, and then wasn't very long after that where some shells started to fire. Ineffective, luckily, but
Yeah.
they fired the shell.
You want to tell us about some of the close calls you had?
Well, one particular one was shortly after that. I was engaged in and I was firing. I was looking in, and the bullet went between my hand that was on the rest of the BAR and my chin, and landed in the back of the foxhole, and I jumped up and wrist landed on a hot barrel and we got a blister. That was the first little scare. And then a couple of days later, we were on a night attack, and I was the only one. The BAR men were the only ones with ammunition. The others had fixed bayonets. A machine gun opened fire, and the lieutenant yelled to me, "Hot, get him." It was my task to answer automatic fire, and I fired back and forth together. I felt like something kicked me on the side, and I thought somebody kicked me, and I said, "Watch what you're doing." And then we fired back and forth, and then whether I got him or not, he silenced him in any case. And I didn't look over here on my left side until the next morning. The shells, your BAR magazines you're stacked in your belt, two side by sides. The bullets had gone through the two magazines, through my jacket, through my shirt, but not my undershirt, and went out through the back. The magazines from that action were about twice their width they normally are. But I thought probably they would explode if they did it, but I guess they don't. There was powder all over the place. Thing, but,
well, you were pretty lucky there.
Oh, very lucky. Yeah, and then next, this was after we crossed the Moselle Canal there in France. We were gathering all the BAR crews together to take care of some machine guns up on a hill that were preventing people crossing a bridge over the canal. So they wanted to silence the machine guns, so they were getting the crews together. And it had rained quite a bit the night before, and the ground was quite wet. And a shell had landed within 3 feet of me and didn't explode, but it took a piece of sod and hit my right side, and I went SL tea kettle, and I had black and blue from one end up. But I couldn't even look down and see the shell. The shell had sucked down through the mud, I guess. And
just disappeared?
Just disappeared. I couldn't see what approximate size it was. And then we were on the attack one time, and we ended up on the side of a hill. My assistant gunner was up to the right of me, and I was down the lower part, luckily. A mortar shell landed in between us. All the shrapnel whizzed over me, and unfortunately for him, because he was higher on the hill, it raked him along his right side. No, it would be left side. And all you could see his clothing was all rattled or ripped from. And then he took one step and died.
Oh, geez.
One step. Did. And I didn't have a scratch. And there were several near misses.
Yeah.
But I think that's normal for an infantryman. You're going to have near misses, and the other guy is not.
Yeah.
So lucky from that standpoint.
So after you crossed the Moselle, where did you go from there?
We went into France in several towns and villages until we were on, this was around November 10th, 11th, sometime in that time frame.
Of 44?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And we were going pretty easy. No one was resisting us. I said, something's wrong here, you know. We're not engaged with nobody. We kept going and going and going. And then we got into the town of Redal, and outside the town was 6 Sherman tanks. Over there, evidently, were in support. No action, no artillery, no nothing. We got outside of Redal and we dug in. We were on the left side of the road, and M Company and K Company was on the right side of the road. We were battalion strength. It was engaged in the battle was L, K, and M, but with I, like I said, in reserve. So we dug in, no action right away, and then, well, I heard through the night, I heard our tanks rev up.
Yep.
But sometimes they just rev up just to, run the engines a bit and then shut off. No, they pulled out. So I think nothing of it. Then all of a sudden, I remember when I originally dug in, I was real near a tree. And I said, right, I ain't gonna dig into those roots. So I moved out a bit, away from that tree and dug my hole. The first shell that came over, guess where it hit?
Hit the tree?
Hit the tree. I got bark on me and stuff. The tree, about maybe 3 feet high, was just all shattered. I would have been underneath that tree, but luckily I got away from the roots, and I was far enough away where I just got a bark bath, as best I can describe it. And it was the only shell that landed near me. All of it, and I guess they were just zeroing in. And all the further shells were going into the town. And then the artillery silenced, and over the hill came the infantry. We were able to, they were open targets. We didn't have much trouble repelling them. They attacked several times, and each time we're successful in knocking them back. And then we heard the other side tanks open, engines start up, and we couldn't see them. We hear them, but we couldn't see them. The infantry had gone back and stayed back, and we could hear the tanks going, but we couldn't see them for the longest time. And then all of a sudden, on the left, there were the tanks. We could see them in the distance. They were going, they went past us, and they went up into the town. And unfortunately for some of them, some of the guys were in a cellar, and the tanks were sticking the muzzles down to the cellar and firing. Oh, I don't know how many people got killed and the like. And the funny part, I forgot pretty much what happened after that. The psychiatrist says there's something terrible that happened that your mind wouldn't let you remember. Of course, I don't remember the battle from that point on.
Okay.
I know from further reports that a lot were killed, and the like, But everybody's telling me how horrible it was, and I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
What actually happened to this day, I don't know.
Okay.
From the combat. I remember it, of course, what I always told the lieutenant, he says, well, there's two things. I don't mind dying, I'll die. I don't want to go blind, and I don't want to be a prisoner of war. I told that to the lieutenant.
Mm-hmm.
And after several days of battle there, I was in a foxhole, and I hear Rauschmidt, which means out in German. I spun around BAR and almost going to blow the guy German's head off. But alongside him was a sergeant. No, we surrender. What?
Oh,
Yeah.
they surrendered to you.
No, not the, we surrendered.
Oh, okay.
Americans surrendered. I got up, I was so goddamn mad that I didn't announce anything, that I wrapped my BAR around that trunk of that damn tree. The German, who was a sergeant, came at me and was going to butt me in the head. And I put my hands up, and instead of hitting my head, he hit my shoulder.
Yeah.
I can still feel that damn
Jeez.
shoulder to this day. And no. And he was evidently an old-time soldier.
Mm-hmm.
And he was going to teach me a lesson. So he took me in one of the houses there, where there was a whole bunch of bodies. And one of my sergeants there with his hand down and his face blown away. And he was talking. And that haunted me for the longest time. How the hell could he talk? You know, he had no face.
Mm.
Haunted me for a good while. But what he was doing, because all he did was go to the front of the house and the back of the house, because he just, well, ended up in the same place by going around. He was teaching me a lesson saying, hey, soldier, you could have been one. Don't be so goddamn tough. You could have been one of these guys. I'm assuming that's what
Uh-huh.
I'm doing. And, we were taking to Lindbergh.
Okay. How many guys were actually captured?
I don't know the full number.
Okay.
I can only tell you the thing I heard about, the division had a paper called Yankee Doings. And it had come out with an issue one time and said, what I want you to do is say a prayer for a couple of guys that just were issued a Medal of Honor, and for the 3rd Battalion of this 3rd Battalion, 2nd Regiment, 104th Regiment, that was destroyed at Redal.
Mm.
That was my announcement, what happened in Redal.
Yeah.
So all I know, what is a destroyed battalion?
Okay.
And that was my introduction to it.
And where did they take you from there?
When they catch me,
Yeah.
they took me to Lindbergh, which was like a distribution center. What they did, they purposely broke you up.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't want groups of the same individuals going to the same camp,
Mm-hmm.
so they'd break you up.
Now, did you have to walk or did you ride?
We rode for part of the way, and then we walked. We went to New Brandenburg first, which was a large
Uh-huh.
prison camp. There was Russians, English, all kinds.
Yeah, the little group that they took you there with, How many guys approximately?
Oh, I don't know, it was a small group. And we were even broken up in the camp.
Okay.
So I was the only one actually physically in that one barracks they put us in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then from then they took us to what the heck? What was the name of that next camp? I'll think of it. Anyway, it was a former Jewish prison camp for a woman. Oh, they put us in, geez, I don't know why I can't think of that camp. It's outside of Berlin. Dunenwalde.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Dunenwalde, Germany. It was a small camp. It had maybe, 7 or 8 barracks. And one of them was for the German guards and the kitchen, per se. And it had a electrified fence around it,
Mm-hmm.
and a German guard with a dog that walked around the camp. Me and my buddy Joe, we used to time how long it took him around, because we were thinking, well, maybe we can get out of this damn place.
Yeah. Now, what date would that have been?
It was November. November 10th, 11th, 12th, right around that.
Of 44.
44.
Okay.
Yeah. And they put us in the camps, in the barracks, and we the main food was a loaf of bread which 8 of us shared. And it was, I found out later, I seen sawdust on the outside, and I thought they just use it, like use flour.
Yeah.
When you make a bread, and you roll it in it. It was 40, the bread itself was 40% soda.
Oh my God.
But we didn't know it at the time. It was funny how we did it. It was 8 on a loaf of bread. So what we had worked out, that the guy that cut the bread into the 8 pieces was get the last piece, and we rotate that position.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard that before. The guy that cut it probably got
Yeah.
the smallest piece.
And well, what we perceived as the smallest piece, he would stay over that goddamn thing and make sure it was about as even as possible. Because he knew what we perceived as the easiest piece, the smallest piece was his.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we used to do it. Once in a while we'd get a potato, and then we'd have meat day. We were 4 people on a slice of bologna. That was meat day.
Really? Wow.
Slice
What
of bologna.
about soup? Did you get soup too? Did you get a watered down soup or anything like that too?
Rutabaga.
Okay.
The rutabaga was like wood.
Uh-huh.
We used it to wash our hands. I defied you to eat the rutabaga. It let it grow so big that it was like wood. There would be a slight color to the water, and that would be about it.
Oh, jeez.
And once in a while, they'd give us a potato. And guys would even steal their peelings from their potatoes, try to get in their kitchen and steal and cook their peels.
Now, did you get any Red Cross packages at all?
Yeah, a little bit. They didn't abscond by the time they got it.
So the Germans would steal some?
Yeah, some.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'd get, you'd get cigarettes. And cigarettes, and chocolate were better than money. You couldn't buy anything with money. Money didn't mean anything. But cigarettes, coffee. I always remember one story about this one German guard traded for a tin of coffee that was in the Red Cross parcel, about yay high. And we asked him the next morning, how was it? He said, he said, American coffee, German schnapps. And he made out like he was drunk. What the hell's the matter with this guy? He had taken the whole damn tin, which was probably 20 cups of coffee or 25, and put it in one cup.
Oh, jeez.
And that's why the goddamn thing he was saying, American coffee, German schnapps, you know. And then when he found out, you know, with many cups, he was even more mad at himself.
Yeah.
So you could barter. So you did get the Red Cross parcels once. Christmas was, of course, was a real special time. They even had like red wax paper around dates. They had powdered milk. Chocolate, like almost like a D ration for you when you're in combat was an emergency ration. It was chocolate so dense that you could break your teeth on trying to bite it. And the Germans searched us when they captured us for D rations.
Yeah.
I said, you ain't gonna. I made sure I devoured my D ration before they came and searched us. They didn't find one on me. I devoured it, and there was some of that in the thing, and there was several other things, plus extra cigarettes and the like. It was quite a thing, and for some reason it got through pretty home.
Now, did any of the Germans celebrate Christmas?
Yes. Christmas was honored by both sides. Most areas, no fighting at all. For some reason, everybody honored that.
Now, overall, how were the guards in the POW camp? Did they treat you decently, or were they pretty rough with you?
Most were. They were older. They were older troops, not combat troops. They were older, and generally, and some of them towards the end, especially, would say, "Me no Nazi, me no Nazi."
They knew what was going to happen.
They knew what was going to happen. So we had some interesting time, but there was one guy I remember in our group, very fine individual. His father was a vice president of the Pennsylvania Railroad, Baltimore, Ohio, I guess it was called. And he was going to celebrate Christmas in a fine style. Well, he had taken that red wax paper that the dates were in, and he made a candle out of it. Made a makeshift candle holder, and stuck it in, and lit the top, and they had saved some little precious things over the days, you know, and was going to have them. And this one guy from Arkansas, I'll never forget him, while he was celebrating his thing, this guy from Arkansas, this guy reached over and put a can on the top, was going to heat it in front of him. And he was so polite that all he did was one of these. And I took the guy and moved him out. Get the hell out of here. And the guy thanked me like it was a nod of the head and went back. Never said a word. Just too much a gentleman.
Yeah.
Just one of the funny things that happened. And we did. And we used to try to find ways to annoy the Germans. they had us out digging stumps. They were going to put some type of small gauge railroad through, for what, I don't know. And they would dig the stump, and they only wanted us to go so far with the root, you know, and chop it. And we would go, and then they say, chop, we say, then we keep going. Makaha shit. Just something to piss them off. Just had to do something. But then we got up one time, I remember this was an instant, we got up and this guard had enough of it, took this one guy out and he was really lacing into him. And the guy just looking at him. And he says to him, yeah, I had one, but the wheels broke. And this guard got real mad, took his gun and pointed at the guy. And the rest of us were ready to charge him. He looked at us and he said, yeah, I'll get him, but I don't know about these other guys. And he put the gun down, but shut up. He got his message through.
Now, in those barracks, obviously you were there in the wintertime. Did you have enough heat? Were you cold?
We were always cold. What we did, we took the trees, had a taproot. It was pure turpentine in the taproot, almost. Mm-hmm. We used to cut that taproot off and make it in little slivers like, and put it, because the coal was, I think it was more stone than it was coal. Mm-hmm. It wouldn't burn too much. We put those taproots in there and we'd get that damn pot cherry red. Because they would burn no matter what, coal burned or not. We'd get them cherry. That's how we kept it hot with the taproots.
You know, did they give you blankets?
Yeah, one.
One blanket?
I just froze.
Did you sleep in bunk beds or?
No. It was a bed as long as this table. Straw on top of wood. And that was it. And a blanket.
And everybody slept on the
straw. It's like crazy.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, that was it. And the one blanket, except the one time when a guy from Geneva came from Switzerland, they issued it. We're wondering, hey, they're getting kind, they're giving us more blankets. That was because he was coming to visit.
Oh, and then did they take him back after he left?
Yeah. That was it.
And when were you finally liberated?
Well, we had more interest before that. I escaped.
Oh, okay, that's right, yes. Tell us about that.
Well, what it was, I told you the guard going around.
Mm-hmm.
And what there was, it was two guys' duty to take the can. We had urinated and defecated, and not during the night. And two guys, it was water in there, and you did your job in there. And then you would carry it to the outhouse, which was back in the thing. And Joe and I, when we used to go together from Turkey, we always got interested in that one tree that had a limb that went pretty close to the outhouse. And we said, I wonder if we could run down that and jump and catch that branch. If we missed, it was okay. But what we were doing, we were timing the guard going around, how long it took him. And when he passed us, how long he'd come around the thing. So one day, we're carrying a can, and during the night, there was a big storm. Evidently knocked the power out. And that branch we were idolizing, one part of it was on the outhouse, and one part of it was on the fence.
And was it a snowstorm?
No, just a storm.
Okay.
There was no unusual amount of snow on the ground, so it couldn't have been. It was probably freezing rain or some goddamn thing.
Okay.
And that was, and it had this hump on it. And we were saying to one another, well, we can walk across that, but the first guy that walks across it is going to tumble. Because it was, you know, the end of the, most of the tree was on the other side of the fence.
Mm-hmm.
He says, would we dare run in unison? You know, one in back of the other. It's worth a shot. I said, it's a gamble. We did, and by God, it was just like an elevator. We got towards the end and went, boop. And we were down there just as graceful it could be. The log, though, went, woo, 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 woo. Where it landed, I don't know. We had given, from running it, we actually ran. From running it, gave it that energy to, it spun. And then, of course, the first thing we're doing was, the alarm's going to go off. Nothing. We ran for the longest time, you know, and then we said, no, we don't hear no alarm. I don't hear nothing. I bet you they don't even know we're gone. So we slowed down because we were getting exhausted.
Yep.
So what we knew there was a railroad nearby because we could hear it.
Mm-hmm.
And we could see smoke and stuff. We said, well, if we travel along the railroad, we know where the direction of France was anyway, you know. If we follow not next to the railroad, you know, some distance off, we should be able to get to France. Not knowing that France was way. No way we were going to make France. But we were using it as a guide. So we went away, and when we found out how they stored their food, what they did like a pyramid with the top cut off. So what they would do is put straw first. They would pile the potatoes and other vegetables, carrots and stuff up in piles, and then put straw. And on top of the straw, dirt. And that would protect them from the cold. And they see. So we found out we could dig in there, and we can get carrots and potatoes, and also rutabaga. But we didn't want no part of those goddamn rutabagas. But we'd get the carrots and the potatoes, and we got food, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
We got a little bit of moisture out of the food, you know,
Yeah.
but we weren't getting any water. So we're going along, and we're not, well, we're running into a stream. We're not running into a stream. We're following the railroad, and then we come to a farmhouse. Oh boy, that's our saving. I says, I know, I worked on my uncle's farm. There'll be a primer there, water, and we could prime this well and get all the goddamn water we want. No. There was no water there for primer. Well wouldn't work. I don't know if you've ever been on a farm.
Yeah, sure.
You got to prime the baby, otherwise, well, ain't gonna do nothing. I says, well, the next best thing is my uncle and I, we used to put a milk can down there, you know, into the water and use it as a refrigerator, you know. Oh, luckily we did get a can of milk and we devoured what there was of it. But that was the last water we got, and we were eating all right. We were eating raw potatoes, raw carrots, and got plenty of that, and did get some moisture. Of course, the food has it. And we're going, and we're going, and we're going, and we're going, and we don't know where the hell we is. Now we're gone several days, and we see a farmhouse.
Now, during those 7 days, did you see any German soldiers? Or?
No, seen nothing.
No, okay.
Seen nothing. And we would duck to the right every once in a while, see if the railroad was still there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we'd heard activity and they'd make sure the railroad, that we were following that railroad, you know.
Right.
Get some sense of direction anyway. And then we were even hearing nothing. But we did start hearing, and we knew they weren't talking German. we thought is it French? It doesn't quite sound like French. It don't sound like German. So he says, can we take a chance? I say, well, we can't keep going. We've got to get water sometimes. If we don't run into a goddamn stream, we're in trouble. You know, the little water we're getting out of potatoes, carrots and stuff, it ain't going to survive us, you know. So we said, oh, we'll take a chance. So we go up, tell them what we are. We're prisoners. Well, they can see by our clothes. You know. Oh, yeah, they can talk English. Oh, yeah. Go up in the barn here. Go up, you know, sleep up in the loft. We'll get you some food and water. Oh, okay. So we were exhausted and we went to sleep. And the next thing we hear that famous words, Rauschmidt. And this time it was German soldiers pointing a gun at it. Evidently what they did, they turned us in. Oh boy. So they take us in, and it's a town, Parchin. It's where Parchin had the German jets, the German jet. We never knew about them before. This is the first we've seen them. We seen them off in the distance. Couldn't see no goddamn propeller on them. And we didn't know nothing about jets. But we knew the engine sounded funny. You know, seen them go by. Oh, all right. So they didn't take us where the planes were. They took us in a regular German jail, which is a little different, of course, from what we're used to. And the German jails, they had an L-shaped lock. In other words, the lock wasn't on the door you went in. The lock was around like a little turn. You know, like an L. Yep. It was locked over here where you couldn't really reach it or couldn't see it. And when we went in, it was just concrete, nothing but concrete, and a little window way up high, you know. And oh boy, we were going, we lay down in the morning, okay, guy comes in the middle of the night, schießen in the morning. Not schießen, schießen, which in German means shoot, schießen means defecate, you know. Uh-oh, they're going to shoot us in the morning. Unknowns to us, this was after the big escape, you know, you probably know about that one. Hitler had issued an order. All future escapees are shot. In other words, the orders were to shoot us. Come morning, this is it, Hank. Outsmarted yourself this time. Nothing, they're talking to us, they gave us a little bit of bread and a little bit of things. Back in the cell. Didn't shoot us that morning. Next morning, same thing. And they told us the night before, she's in the morning, you know. This went on for several days, to where we didn't even believe them anymore. Because, you know, you say it so many times, and it loses its effect. Okay, so then they took us in a little town of Swan, which was near Parchin. It was just 2 buildings. And there was 3 guards. 3 guards. And there was a wooden building. And we're 2 escapees, right? Joining others that were in there. It was maybe 10 in the barracks, 20 in total, with a barbed wire fence with nail. I said, here's 2 escapees that they threatened to shoot, and they're putting them in a building with barbed wire and nails. Real secure. So, we asked the guys, hey, do you guys go out? Oh no, we can't go out. What do you mean? It's goddamn nails. No, they didn't want nothing to do with it. And we said to ourselves that, hey, there's something wrong, Joe. Let's not do anything right away. So we did. And the next day, we went out around the fields, and there was these Polish workers, women and men, working out in the fields, and we were out there. And they're funny how they were. They didn't worry about hiding when they took a crap. They just pulled up their throat along with the men and saying, wow, I said, they don't care for nothing. They just back and you could see at night they went there. And I say to Joe, hey, Joe, you want to go visit those broads? Joe says, why the hell not? So we found something to take the U-nails out. U-nails out, we got it. We started visiting the girls over there. Till the German, the Polish guys were getting very jealous because the women were paying more attention to us than they were to them. And we said, we better cool it here. We're going to get in trouble. So then we spent most of our time, but now we knew how the hell they stored their food. So we used to get food for the guys. We'd go out at night, but we made a mistake that we dug in the same place all the time. Guess what happens after you dig a lot of the carrots and potatoes out? Boom. Of course, they found out what we were doing, but this was even nearer the end of the war.
Yeah.
And we kept seeing more and more Germans coming down the road, heading towards the American lines, which were pretty close to there. And he said, oh boy. And then one day came and the guard came and says, you're free to go. This was right about this time. Yeah, right about this time.
Well, the war in Europe ended.
No, it wasn't ended. But what was happening was the German troops were going to the American lines. When we got to the highway, there was tanks, armored car, soldiers for as far as the eye could see, coming down that road, surrendering to the Americans.
So they weren't going in the opposite direction.
They had their cannons in reverse position, and they seen us, and they said, would you come with us and, tell the Americans that we're surrendering?
So basically they surrendered to you guys.
No, we did not go on the tanks. We just were a little uneasy.
Yeah.
We said, no, we don't want it. And probably if they totally insisted, we would have been a little bit skeptic and glad.
Yeah.
But no, but anyway, Joe, I missed Joe for a while, and there was a bunch of Polish troops that were part of the American Army that were also prisoners of war with us and the stuff, and they had some pretty good stuff and stuff. And when we got driving down, wow, I heard this goddamn Jeep coming. And there's Joe driving a Jeep, running down the road. Hey, come on, I got a Jeep here. How the hell did you get that? Oh, there's a bunch of them down there. So I got in. The only thing I hated what Joe did, a couple of the Polish troops wanted to ride with us. Let him ride. Screw him. I'm going, and he wouldn't let him on. Joe and I didn't think I liked him.
Yeah.
I thought it was a cool thing to do. And we went into town. Of course, now we're going to eat like lords. We're starting to, they put us in this hotel, threw all the Germans out, and took all the POWs and put them in the hotel in various rooms. And we were ordering steak and the like, and all of a sudden an officer came in. No. Can't give them steak and all those foods. They're going to just live on certain things until they get their body strength back. Instead of dreaming about all these steaks, we had to eat very slowly to get our digestive system back to where it could, properly. Because you kill yourself.
Yeah.
You go devouring these steaks. Your body can't handle that now.
Yeah.
And they slowly got us back to things. And we had souvenirs and pistols until some of the guys stupidly were riding the train shooting, boom, boom, boom. And they went through the goddamn bunch of us and took all our weapons that we confiscated away because they were going nuts. And then from there they took us to camps. They're all named after cigarettes.
Oh,
Camp
yeah.
Chesterfield, yeah. Camp Lucky Strike, Camp Camel,
yeah.
and the like. And they put us in these camps, and the war was coming to an end.
Yeah.
Hadn't ended yet, but it did shortly. And then they came to us, they gave us a choice. We could go to a furlough that wouldn't count against furlough time to England to wait for a boat trip back, or be on the list to go back now. I chose to go back now. They put us on these boats to go back.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended on, I always remember the name of the McMoon. It was part cargo, part passenger. There was about 180, I guess, of us, passengers in one part of the ship. And some of us were assigned KP. The only problem, the poor lieutenant had trouble keeping us there. We just went, and what the hell was he going to do? Mm-hmm. We just went out there and lay down. You're supposed to be on KP, you'd yell at us. Just look at him, say nothing. Wouldn't argue with him. But wouldn't go to KP either. Mm-hmm. He didn't know what the hell to do with us. Huh. What was he going to do with us?
So,
shoot us?
So was the trip back any better?
Oh, trip back was better, yeah. The cooks are mad at us because they had to do all the KP and the cooking. I don't know what the hell they did with the food. We were always wondering what they were going to do with the food for us. They were going to spike it with something or something. But they didn't. And I said, we don't blame you. And we got an agreement, but we didn't go back to KP. We just weren't going to do it. So we landed in Fort Dix, Trenton. Mm-hmm. And then we went on to Miles Standish, Mass, which was a part they were using, a camp they were using for all the troops coming back.
Yep.
And I got assigned, my task was a very difficult one. I was an emergency Jeep driver every third day. So what we got smart of it, there was like 3 of us. So we got an agreement where we were off for 9 days. One guy would take it, time, and then we would go on furlough. The trouble is we burned up a hell of a lot of money.
So at Miles Standish, basically, they were waiting for you to get healthy again before you were discharged?
Well, they had used us to bring the commanding officer to headquarters. Mm-hmm. The other guys went on to other bases and stuff. And we would drive. Our job was to pick up the commander of the train, bring him to headquarters to sign in all the troops, then take him to his barracks, and then go back to sleep. Maybe that would happen twice a night, 3 times a night. And that was our only job. Then we went to the port of Boston, and we stationed there for a while doing pretty much nothing. Then we went to Taunton, Mass. Then I went home on furlough for a rest furlough for 81 days. That wasn't counted at furlough. Then I got paid 15 months pay for the time I was in combat, POW, and in the time intermittent. And I had to report to Lake Placid after the 81 days to get reassigned and be ready to form another outfit to go to Japan eventually.
Oh boy.
Well,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The war
Japan wasn't
on.
over.
Yeah. Yeah.
But one day I decided I was going to take a trip to Coney Island. I was heading to Coney Island, and this guy was on the radio with one of these boom boxes in them days. Remember those damn things?
Yeah.
Big, huge things. He's, hey, soldier, saying here, Japan may surrender.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right here. I have to change tapes.
Okay.
Okay, you mentioned somebody had a boombox radio.
Yeah, and he said, hey, soldier, word is that Japan may surrender. I says, what the hell am I doing going to Coney Island? I got off at the next stop, turned around and headed to Times Square. I got into Times Square. There was very little activity there. Nothing going on, nothing going on. And then all of a sudden, there was a Times building there, and they had that electric sign that went around with the message. And all of a sudden, the sign comes around. Japan surrenders. Now, Times Square is basically empty.
Yeah.
It ain't 2 minutes to it's jammed full of people. Very few soldiers, most of them are still overseas. Few sailors there, a few soldiers, and a whole hell of a bunch of women.
So you were in uniform.
I'm in uniform.
All right.
All of a sudden, the sign comes around. I look up out of these buildings, and women and a few men pouring out of the buildings, coming right at me. And got their arms extended and like and at me, and they said, soldier, go at it wherever you want and have fun, you deserve it. I don't know what they meant, but I took it. I took some liberties, and I had a ball. Keys were passed. They were saying, yeah, this is where I'm staying tonight. If you're interested. I said, well, no, I'm having a ball here. I didn't accept any of them. There was a lot of temptation. Because I could say, well, some of my fellow buddies, these might be their wives and stuff, but stay away from there, touching and kissing and all that, and which I did plenty of anyway. And I had a ball. I had drinks given to me, and these bars that had nobody in them, you couldn't get in. The way you got a drink, you ordered it out here, and it got passed here. Of course, I didn't buy any drinks. They were all handed to me, and I was having a drink in both hands, and another third one being offered to me. I got no place to hold a third one. So I said, here, in fact, I don't even want two. It's too damn hard to think, and I can't hug the woman. I said, the hell with it. If you want me to take the drink of the woman, I'll take the woman. And I was having a ball. I was hugging and that was a time. If I lived to be 192, I won't forget. It was just like I was lucky being one of the few men in the first place, and also the few soldiers where the women were interested in. They said, "Oh, you poor soldiers." And they could see I had the combat infantry badge. Some of them knew what it meant. A lot of them didn't, but some of them did. Because their husbands were probably over there in some cases. So that was probably the most unforgettable day I ever had.
Uh-huh. Now, did you make it back to camp sober?
Camp home, because I was home at the time.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I had come home on that 81-day leave.
All right.
And I had a ball. I didn't, like I said, go to any hotel with any woman.
Mm-hmm.
I honored her there, but I had fun finally. A good part of the night, how late at night, I don't know, but it was pretty late. I got home, and like I told you, my mother got up and said how good time they were having in Poughkeepsie. I said, Mom, I ain't going to try to explain it to you. But she looked at me, what happened to your shirt? It was rouge and lipstick and, oh, God. I was a mess.
Now, how'd you get back to Poughkeepsie? By train?
Train.
Okay.
And the trains, if you were in uniform, were free.
Mm-hmm.
You just went on and conductor just gave you a thing for your destination, no charge.
Now, after your leave was over, where did you go?
After my leave was over, which, interestingly, I went through 15 months' pay, one of which I spent going back to New York by taxi.
Mm-hmm.
And the taxis then were not like today where you frequent trips to New York.
Mm-hmm. You
went to New York on a taxi, you went the old roads, and it was extremely unusual. Me and Ed, a buddy of mine that came over, jumped in the back of the taxi, and the taxi says, where to? We said, New York City. I had a buddy that was in the Air Force, that mother owned a hotel, I think Macy in New York. We were going down to visit him. And the driver, when I said New York, he turned around, he said, I'm gonna have to call in and find out if I can do this. He calls in, and they told him, providing the money's up front, go ahead. And I forget what it was, we paid the money plus the tip, and we went to New York. And we start having fun in the room. There was some woman came up, and I liked her entertained. And first Clarke came up, then the guy supervisor came up, telling us to tone it down. And we had paid no attention to them. And then the mother came up, and the mother said to the son, get the hell out of here and take your two friends and don't come back. And so the guys, don't worry, I know another hotel. We went over there, but we were a lot more quiet. And then by the time I was going to Lake Placid, I was totally broke. I don't think I had a quarter in my apartment. I said, oh God, what am I gonna do? I got nothing. So I had the bus ticket that the Army had provided to me, went up to Lake Placid, and they immediately took me in this office and said, oh, we're gonna give you your subsistence pay. What they did, they gave you money for the 81 days, subsistence pay. So much a day. And by the way, you get paid for those 81 days too. I was saved because I had nothing. And I stayed there. I'm in the Lake Placid then was the place. That's a multi-rich. The menu was in French. I had to ask the waitress what the hell it was. You know, food. Yeah. And the like, and it was delicious and stuff. And we were getting rides to everywhere, and they were taking care of our teeth and checking how we were. And we were going along, and they came to me one day and says, how would you like to be an MP? I said, I hate it. He says, well, we need you to be an MP, driving the trains from New York to Washington. Evidently, what they were having trouble with the troops coming back, riding the train, they were, once you're in combat, you're half wacko, you know. And they were throwing the MPs off the train and being very rowdy. Not all of them, you know, but on occasion. Yeah. So they found out if you had an infantry badge, combat infantry badge, you were somewhat respected, and you could handle the troops pretty well, and they were trying to get ex-combat guys to ride the trains. My buddy, who I knew from Western Printing, came to me and said, "You want to get out of that MP?" I said, "Yeah, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be no goddamn MP." And he got me out of it. So then I ended just going up and hanging around Miles Standish again until they couldn't, I had enough points to get discharged once the war ended, but I couldn't get into Dix. They asked me if it was all right if I got discharged out of Fort Devon, which was outside of Worcester. And again, the major that was, he wanted to make me a drill sergeant, and I didn't want no part of being a drill sergeant either. I wanted to get the hell out of the Army. And he was trying to convince me, and I got a little boisterous, and he reminded me, he said, "Soldier, you're not out of this Army yet." And I said to myself, wait till you get the paper in your hand before you start getting wise, you know. And I shut up, and he says, he got the message that I wasn't going to be a drill sergeant. And so he signed the papers, and
You were discharged.
I was discharged. I wanted a plane, train from Worcester into Albany, and from Albany back down. And I was living in Poughkeepsie at the time. And my family met me at Poughkeepsie, and they looked at me. "Oh, you look all right." They were looking from some emaciated POW, like they see in pictures, you know.
Yeah.
Some of these Japanese pictures, prisoners who were emaciated. I was in pretty good shape. Even in Swan, I was eating fine. I knew where the hell their food was. It was raw carrots and raw potatoes, but it was hearty food. I got plenty of it.
Now, once you were discharged, did you make use of the GI Bill at all?
Well, not much of it. I went to work the next day. We were not that familiar with GI Bill and what we were entitled to. We just wanted to get the hell out of the Army. You know? We were not, don't forget, the nearest place, what you call like Castle Point, what they call it, what they call where soldiers go for treatment.
Oh, good, yep. Like a rehabilitation place.
Well, it was guys, I have memory problems now. You know, VA camps.
Okay.
Veterans hospitals.
Okay.
Yeah, the nearest one was in Water Relief, near here. Or Bronx, New York, Manhattan, New York. And that was where you went to. There was nothing around us. Castle Point was a TB hospital at the time. Later on, they made a VA center out of it.
Okay.
But I went to work the next day.
Okay.
I worked at Western Printing a while, till I got tired of that place, and then went to IBM. And worked through the ranks, and IBM was very good of letting you study and advance yourself. And I got, without college, got to manage a manufacturing engineering department.
Wow.
I had college graduates working for me. I had gone through all these IBM schools, and I had gotten experience in manufacturing by working on the line, being like a repairman on the line, and being a manager on the line, and then being a manager in manufacturing engineering, and then so I worked through studying with IBM's permission to go to schools on my time, but on their buck. So I made out pretty well.
And what year did you retire from IBM?
1990. I was 64 years old. And they wanted me to come in as a staff advisor. My last 5 years with IBM, where I went from manufacturing engineering to advisory capacity, I would go to, IBM was having vendors do some of their work then, and I would work with the vendors, setting them up and agreeing on the cost of a price their manufacturing efforts.
Mm-hmm.
I would negotiate the hours with them and the like.
Mm-hmm. Now, did you stay in touch with anyone you were in the service with?
Oh yeah, our regiment had a reunion every year.
Oh, okay. So you attended reunions.
We ran and an interesting story about the lieutenant that surrendered us. He didn't come to the reunions for 34 years.
Mm-hmm.
He knew I was unpleasant with the surrender. I was even asking permission to do it on my own. And he told me he couldn't give me that permission. And that if I did that, I would be court-martialed. So I had to stay. That's why I was so unhappy when I found out that we had surrendered. And he was worried, but he didn't have to worry. Very few of the guys were left. And I was one of the few left. In fact, the only one after a while. And I remember that thing in the Yankee Doings.
Mm-hmm.
I had PTSD pretty bad, and I was having dreams. In fact, I got over for a good while. My boys had taken me before the honor flights to Washington to visit the World War II memorial.
Mm-hmm.
And the memorial had stars, one star for every 500 killed during World War II or something like that. And a particular day how the sun was, and I was sitting up on the step with my boy, how it was reflected off. It was reflecting red. And I saw that sergeant's face there, the blown up face.
Mm-hmm.
I says, he wasn't talking. Somebody else in that pile was talking. He wasn't talking. And I had this big relief of, this bloody face actually talking to me. It wasn't him, it was somebody else in the pile. Maybe he was about to die, but he wasn't that guy. That guy was dead.
Mm-hmm.
And what a relief. And I got a nice relief for a long time, many years, from that point on. I almost passed out. We were going to go to visit someplace, and I told him I can't move. But I got a great relief. And it lasted till that letter came out, the article in the Yankee Doings. And I talked to the psychiatrist that was treating me, and I was telling him about it, and I was having difficulty with it, that I never really made peace with that lieutenant. Even though he came to reunions towards the end, we more or less acknowledged one another, but really never made peace,
Mm-hmm.
I understood his position, he understood mine. And he says, well, if I were you, I would go visit him. Take your boy to visit him. And that's what we did. Thank God. The poor guy was a basket case. He was reliving that he surrendered what was left of the troops, wondering whether he did the right thing or not. And he wasn't going to the reunions, and he was suffering.
Mm-hmm.
And I found out from his children, he had 2 boys and 2 daughters, that he was suffering. So what I kept telling them, you're my hero. You did the right thing. I kept trying to reassure him, because he was besides himself. And he was hugging me, holding my hand, and I kept complimenting him,
Mm-hmm.
And as I looked at it, I was one guy. What was it to me? I was surrendering, I was escaping myself.
Mm-hmm.
I was putting my body out. I had a right to do that. But what I wanted him to do, it also was part of but other bodies that maybe weren't willing to do that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And he had the authority and the burden for those guys' lives. I didn't. I had no responsibility for them.
Yeah.
But thankfully, I gave them a point of relief, like the kids told me after. Oh boy, thank you. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you relieved them. And I kept telling them, you're my hero, you're my hero. And luckily, 3 weeks later, he died.
Oh.
And the boys gave me the article and thanked me again. They said, you don't know how that relief was for that last 3 weeks of his life. How he thanked.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem was, I still can't forget that battle. I can't remember it.
Yeah.
And the psychiatrist says, well, you're just hiding it. I said, well, maybe it wasn't that bad. He says, when somebody tells you your battalion was destroyed,
Yeah.
and there was one other guy, he only came to one reunion. He was from Chicago. And when he came in, this was about midpoint of our reunions. And it was obvious he was looking for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
He was going there and he was going there and he was asking questions. And everybody was pointing at me when he was asking questions. What the hell's going on here? And he had his wife with him. And he comes directly to me, and I knew him. He was in my platoon.
Mm-hmm.
Forget his name now. He was from Chicago. And he says to his son, I want you to meet a real soldier. What the hell is he talking about? I want you to meet this guy. He's a real soldier. Never seen the guy again. Seen him on and off at that reunion. Never came back to a reunion. What he meant by that, God only knows. I didn't know. I don't know what he was referring to. What's a real soldier, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know to this day. It evidently had something to do, because he was in Redall.
Mm-hmm.
Something to do with there. But what, I don't know. When we went out trying to search later for him, it was very difficult to get people. There was very few of us left from the Redall attack. There was many guys that had come later, you know, they were soldiers, of course they replaced us, but that were actually in that Redall battle. In fact, at the time, when I went out, the lieutenant and I were the last 2 in the battalion. Once he died, now I'm the only one left in that, not battalion, platoon.
Right.
And the rest are all dead. So what the hell it was with that, I don't know.
Now, did you end up joining like the VFW or the Legion?
Yeah, I did join just about all of them, PFW groups and the like. But for the last 12 years, my wife had Alzheimer's.
Oh.
And she required 24-hour.
Sure.
So it was funny. When I was in the 12 years ago, when I was in the VFW, there was a number of World War II guys around, you know, and the other places too, you know. But for 12 years, I didn't go near there. I was home with my wife every day. I couldn't leave her, except take her to the doctors and the like. So now I come, she died May 11th. And I'm saying, well, a few days later, I'll take a walk over to the VFW. I used to belong there. I probably still have membership, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So I walk in, I had the World War II hat on. I could see everybody looking at me stark, you know. And I had to ring the buzzer. I didn't have a card.
Uh-huh.
They're looking at me. What the hell is going on? You World War II guy? Yeah. You belong to VFW? I guess so. They're looking me up. No, you're not a member here. Well, get your card, though. They gave me a card. I met the guys, and they're very amiable, you know, we're talking. And boy, the whole group's there, you know, and wanting to meet this World War II guy, you know. And I said, yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah, we'll have the card for you by tomorrow. Okay. I come in tomorrow, and there's a whole new group of guys, and everyone said, hi Hank, hi Hank, hi Hank. I meet these guys. They all knew me. They said, hey, we got a World War II guy now. You know, and evidently there wasn't any around, or very few. Yeah, everybody knew me. And they still, you know, hi Hank, when I come in, you know. It's funny, so I do belong. And of course I did find out I did belong to all the others I'd paid, but for some reason I didn't keep up my dues with this particular VFW, which is 2 blocks from me. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your interview.
Okay.